The S&P 500 dropped 3 days straight this month. Growth stocks took the biggest hit. While everyone was watching the news, I checked one number, and it wasn't my portfolio value. It was my LTV. Welcome back to another episode of Almost Wealthy. I'm John, turning my portfolio into my own bank on phase 2 of my bill stacking plan. Every time the market gets shaky, I always get the market bros that talk about you're using margin. What happens if your stock drops to around 30, 40, 50%? So I'm going to answer that. As you see on the screen, it's in my spreadsheet, and I'm going to do it right now. So let's get into it. So on the screen, you're seeing my bill stacking plan spreadsheet, which has a phase table. Phase 1 was my phone bill. Phase 2, I added the internet bill. Phase 3, I'm not there yet, but I will add the electric bill. But as you see down below, you'll see my live risk snapshot. So let's get into a couple things. LTV, loan to value, is my borrowed balance divided by my portfolio value. I've got $11,679 invested and $564 borrowed. That's about 4.8%. My phase 2 ceiling is 12%, so I'm well under that right now. My spreadsheet flags this automatically, as you can see, at or below your 12% phase target. You've seen that number before. What's new is the next 3 rows, the one that stress tests what happens if the market drops. So let's talk about it. So what happens to my LTV if the market drops 30%, 40%, a real crash, let's say 50%? My borrowing balance doesn't move. I still owe $564 no matter what. So that still needs to be paid. What moves will be my portfolio value. At a 30% drop, my portfolio falls to $8,175, and my LTV will be 6.9%. At a 40% drop, my portfolio falls basically $7,000, LTV at 8.1%. At a 50% drop, my portfolio falls to $5,840. My LTV will be 9.7%. All 3 of these numbers stay under my 12% phase 2 target. The spreadsheet sums this up so I can survive a 50% crash. So 30%, 40%, and 50% aren't random. They're historical numbers. In 2008, S&P went down around 57%. In 2020, the COVID crash, it took it down 34% in a month. The dot-com crash wiped out 49% over 2 years. My 3 scenarios cover the whole range. The worst stretch that investors have actually lived through, not a hypothetical bad week. And out of all those scenarios, my LTV tops right out under 10%. Let's talk about the line that actually matters. M1 requires 25% equity at all times. Flip that around, my LTV legally can't go above 75% before M1 forces me to sell. Even at a full 50% crash, my LTV only hits 9.7%. That's more than 7x cushion between my worst case and the actual danger line. M1 lets me borrow up to 50% of my portfolio. I'm choosing to sit under 5%. My margin call isn't a warning. It's the broker selling my holdings automatically to bring your LTV back down. Every number in this video is built to stay nowhere near that. People always ask me, am I scared right now of volatility? And I say no, because I ran the numbers. When the S&P fell 3 days straight this month, my LTV sat at 4.8%. My interest cost is $2.66 a month. My dividends cover about 19.2 times over that. That's why a bad week of the news doesn't change how I feel about my account. So there are limits to this. This crash test only moves the portfolio value. It doesn't model a dividend cut from my portfolio, which would hit my interest coverage separately. My target LTV raises as I move through the phases. 12% now, 25% by phase 10 when I'm borrowing my mortgage payment. And the 5.65% borrowing rate, the 75% call threshold, the 25% maintenance requirement, those are all M1's current policy. This is just a snapshot today, and I always rerun this every phase. So to wrap this up, my real LTV today is 4.8%. My worst case scenario, a 50% crash, will be 9.7%. The line that will actually cause a problem will be 75%. The market had a rough few weeks and my numbers barely move. That's my full answer to what happened to my plan if it crashes. Not a guess, a formula. Subscribe for real numbers from my actual portfolio every week, and I will see you on the next one.